Hello, everyone. This is tonight's remote view. I was asked to go in and look at the energy, and so I scanned the grid, um, trying to just take a look at what's going on, focusing a lot on the United States, and I've been focusing a lot on Washington, D.C. And the first thing I'm made aware of is the fact that our government, our federal government, is no longer functioning. That we have cut and reduced the government so much that basic services no longer function. But what we haven't cut is the intelligence agencies. They remain robust. And what I have said before is that I think of Trump as a bright, shiny object. Everyone is focusing on Trump and not the system and people that put him in the position he is currently in. He is a symptom. He is a symptom of a disease that is much bigger than Donald Trump. Because the American system is so broken, we have Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not the cause, he is the symptom. So the first thing I felt when I went into DC is I just felt sick. I felt like I had COVID. I felt like I had a really, really bad case of COVID. And when I had COVID, I didn't have the strength to stand. I felt, digestive disorders, fainting spells, weak. This brought my attention to the CDC, the departments of health. And my concerns about cuts that are taking place right now in the CDC. So America is becoming increasingly vulnerable to pandemics, epidemics, that if a major virus were to hit the United States, whether man-made or by accident, something really virulent like Ebola were to somehow make its way into the United States, the bubonic plague. We can't guarantee that our system is functional enough to deal with such an emergency. And we have to ask ourselves how we got here. Why is America no longer a functioning? Why is the federal government no longer functioning? And the reason that the federal government is no longer functioning is because people in positions of power are not motivated by compassion and unity and a desire to strengthen the United States. Instead, the goal is to take care of oneself, to avoid taxes, to make as much money as possible, to win, to have more than everybody else. It is not a mentality that focuses on unity and care for the collective. It's a mentality about power, domination, and cruelty. And so the person who's currently in the White House is a reflection of the people that put him there. And a lot of people put him there. If the FBI raided the Epstein homes and took contraband from his safe, then the intelligence agencies has all that material. If in 2004 Epstein made a deal with the FBI, with the intelligence agencies, and there were non-prosecutory agreements that were made with VIP people who participated in crimes against children, all that information is also being stored by the intelligence agencies. Which means that if Trump raped somebody in 1994 or 95 or 96 that was 12 years old, sometime in the 90s, then the intelligence agencies have known about that for a very, very long time. And so we have to ask ourselves, who's in charge of our intelligence agencies, and why are they the only departments that are not getting cut, but are actually getting more money? And it leads you to think, who's in charge? Because we didn't elect the people working in the CIA, and the CIA is not a democratically elected body of the American government. We didn't elect the people of the FBI. We've talked in the past about how Roger Stone had orgies at his house, parties, filmed it, and it was viewed as a gentleman's agreement. So now he has dirt on you, you have dirt on him, we shake hands, and it's my insurance policy as Roger Stone if anything should happen to me. This way I know I can get a pardon. This is why I help Trump get elected to be president, because my personal needs are going to be met. I'll continue to be able to do what I like. I'll continue to help promote Republican candidates. I'll continue to promote conservative libertarian values and compromise those people so that they will do my bidding. This was Roger Stone's idea of why he was promoting certain candidates. The candidates that he was promoting were people who undoubtedly had been compromised by Roger Stone. Undoubtedly, the people he promoted, he had dirt on. We see the same thing with Diddy in Hollywood, that he owned a piece of many people, many of their successes, their money, their fame, their talents. Drink the golden juice, I'll make you famous. A gentleman's agreement, right? And you have to ask yourself, in order to become a person in position of power, do you need to be someone compromised by these intelligence agencies? Kavanaugh, Thomas being examples of people that were compromised. And yet they still wound up on the Supreme Court. The FBI knew very well rumors about Kavanaugh sexually assaulting people. So what we have is we now have a system where we have a government where none of the important departments are functioning anymore. We've got slashes in the state departments, which is compromising our relationships with other countries, but also our security. We have slashes in the CDC, which unfortunately is not going to protect public health in the event of an emergency. Should we have another virus hit the United States, more virulent than COVID, many Americans could die simply because we are not set up to deal with such an emergency. And the fact that Trump is in office is a symptom of the disease that has taken over in the United States for a very long time, and that is this desire for power and money, rather than creating a society, a just society, a compassionate society that genuinely cares about its citizens, a more perfect union. And the question is, in such a broken country, can we even repair ourselves? Is it time to switch to euro dollars or Swiss francs? and move to Slovenia or somewhere else where we can lay low, live simply, and hang in the towel? Has the United States become a place that is simply no longer habitable? So I'm going to do the Empath Prayer, and people have asked what is going to take Donald Trump out. Is it going to be a virus? Is it going to be a disease? Is it going to be the very powerful people that put him in the White House in the first place? I don't know. I do know that he's sick. He has congestive heart failure. He had a very serious case of COVID that possibly damaged his lungs. He's got chronic venous insufficiency, probably due to congestive heart failure post heart attack. That's what I think. I think he had a heart attack. I think it damaged his heart. And I think as a result, his heart is not able to pump effectively. And so he is experiencing edema. This is not a healthy person. The other thing I felt when I went into this energy is that the antidote to the problem that is the United States is to become the opposite of that. It is that those nations that care about these values have to confront and deal with the problem that is the United States. And that could mean some kind of war or conflict begins to emerge between the Western countries and the United States. If the United States continues to move away from democracy and Western values, it could find itself the enemy of the Western nations. All right, without further ado, we're going to do the Empath Prayer. Let's take a look. Thank you so much for your love and support of this channel. And I also want to check and see if another major virus is going to strike the United States. FEMA as well. If we're slashing emergency services, how will we deal with the emergencies that could be impacting the United States? Hurricanes, storms, earthquakes, volcanoes. Are we set up for such emergencies? The answer is we aren't. And that's a problem. All right, let's do the Empath Prayer. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys, to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively as a community, we say Amen. All right. The first thing is I want to see about major catastrophes in the United States, and I'm interested in finding out if we're looking at potentially another major virus hitting the United States, equal to or worse than COVID. Remember, COVID had a mortality rate of about 2%, but Ebola is closer to 90, close to actually 100% mortality. People don't survive Ebola. Let's take a look. Emerging viruses. What have we done to the United States? Can we come back from this? What if COVID were to create there was a new mutation that was virulent? We have a tower coming. The karma is the tower. Another thing that has happened in the United States is that we have dismantled many of our immigration policies. We've dismantled immigration policies, and so consequently, we're going to see serious problems with our food supply chain, because we no longer have people to pick the food, and so that's also going to be a problem. Now is the time of the Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Wands is territorial. She fights for territory and she fights for land. Remember, when we think about wands, we think about time and we think about space. We see now the Queen of Wands. This is a time of territory and fighting for territory. The problem with that is we now have a country where nobody can afford a plot of land. Everybody's fighting to get as much land and property and get their grubby hands on as much land as property. But there isn't new land. The earth is not expanding. It's the same amount of land mass. You know, hasn't been a major change in land mass. And in fact, we're actually losing land mass because of global warming. So you have this fight for space and territory, but you also have a tower coming to the United States, and that is typified by the tower. Are we looking at a major event? Yes, it's very likely we're looking at a major event. Could it be a war, or could it be a natural disaster? We also have a problem with hacking of our grid, hacking of our planes software, which is why United Airlines had to ground its planes. It was no longer able to operate its planes, possibly because somebody had hacked its system. But we have this major event that's going to be coming in, and this has come up. A lot of readers have talked about something coming in August. So while we don't want to alarm people, we also want people to be aware that something is coming, and that it looks like it's a major violent event is coming to the United States, possibly in August. Two of Swords could be that people simply don't want to see what they see. They want to turn their backs. They don't want to look at things. They want to close themselves off. This is some self-preservation that we often see with people, that they get overwhelmed. They don't know what they can do if there's going to be a major plague that hits, or a major earthquake, or a major hurricane. This kind of denial, or hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And that's understandable. It's part of human nature, but it can also be very dangerous if we don't prepare for potentially major events. And we see heartbreak over the nation as well. So it could be that the nation gets pulled into war. It's interesting that Putin wanted to meet in Alaska, because Alaska was a territory that Russia felt it was entitled to. And we know that Putin wants to expand his territory, and that probably means he wants to take Alaska. And many parts, like Sitka, Alaska, Sitka, I don't know how to pronounce it. It has a lot of Russian housing in it, from Russian fishing, etc. So it's interesting that they're meeting in Alaska, considering that Russia feels like they own Alaska. But we have this heartbreak and a denial and turning away from what's potentially going on around us. What is above us is we must face the truth of what is happening to our country as Americans, that the world must come to face the facts regarding what is happening in the United States, that their government is being dismantled, that we no longer have a functioning government because we will not pay to keep the government up and running. And what we're sitting in is a desire for power and to gain control over the situation, which is the Magician card. However, you have to realize that the Page of Swords is truth. It's the sword that cuts through the lies. So we have power here, but we also have truth coming in. It's typified by the idea of a messenger or an angel. People often will think of Archangel Michael, who carried the sword, fought with the devil, and won. We're coming out of a time of Ace of Cups, which is goodwill. It's interesting, as imperfect as Biden was, he was a compassionate president, forgiving billions of dollars in student loans for poor students. He made life better for the common American. And so we came out of a time that was unbelievably compassionate for the average citizen, but it may not have been a great time for the oligarchs of the United States. And we're entering into a time of Four of Swords, which is deep contemplation. So we have truth, deep contemplation. I'm a little concerned about the Tower and the Four of Swords together. I think there's going to be a major event. I'm concerned about terrorism in the United States, a major terrorist attack, or some kind of major violent disruption in our system coming in. Where we are at right now, the great irony is that the United States is still an unbelievably wealthy country. There are many people in the United States that are worth millions and billions of dollars, but they're keeping it for themselves and they're not paying their taxes. And so consequently, we're seeing a huge wealth discrepancy in the United States. The opposition, again, a need to defend land, encroaching on the land, a loss of territory, the hope and fear that the sun is coming out, and the final outcome is war. It's possible that America could be pulled into wars. The Knight of Wands is a fire sign charge on God. It's that Mars energy that goes to fight. The clarification is a new contract over wealth, and the opposition, confusion. The nation is not united. And the hope and fear that things have ended, that the old ways are gone, and we see death and war. So it's very possible that America could get pulled into some kind of an attack. I'm concerned about us being attacked possibly by sleeper cells from Iran or Russia, and it could result in America entering into some kind of a war. And I think that we could be potentially seeing something happening sometime in August. People had asked if I could look at Donald Trump's health and whether or not I felt that it was his health that would take him out. Would he go to prison? You know, what is ultimately going to take Trump out? Data that's been collected by doctors and scientists based on his health feel that there's about a 75% chance that Trump will not be able to complete his term. Traveling is not a good idea for people who have chronic venous insufficiency, and he's most likely on blood thinners. Like I said, he looks like he's had a heart attack, and that he probably has weak heart muscles as a result of that. And so he's probably on a series of drugs, blood thinners, beta blockers, maybe a couple of other things as well. But we'll just look at Trump's health right now and where we think it's headed in the coming months. Trump's health. And if you haven't had a chance to share, like, and subscribe, I would be very grateful. Thank you. We're almost at 100,000. We're about 11,000 away, which is very exciting. It's fun. Trump's health. All right. There are secrets being kept. There are secrets being kept. You know, it's interesting. I often read when I'm looking at the government, the Queen of Pentacles, the woman who keeps the secret, I often think of it as the FBI or our intelligence agencies. I think of as pentacles, secrets, right? And Ten of Pentacles can be dirty little family secrets in addition to inheritance. So we inherit the good and we inherit the bad. The good things are, you know, we're going to inherit money or good genetics. The bad things we inherit may be an alcoholic parent, you know, the genetic components of alcoholism and addiction, or child abuse, etc. Those can also be things that we inherit. So we have secrets potentially, secrets in the government, and possibly the government holding on to secrets. But we also have a genetic component here. So Trump is succumbing not only to years of abuse of his body by eating junk food, but there appears that there may be a genetic component, what he inherited. He inherited alcoholism, we know that. Since he doesn't drink, he might be looking at drugs that mimic alcohol, like benzodiazepines. If he has ADHD, which he seems to have symptoms of ADHD, he might want to medicate himself with amphetamines, and then he's on the yo-yo drug problem, where the person does amphetamines and cocaine to stay up and alert, and then does benzos at night, which makes you kind of drunk, raises GABA, helps you sleep, right? So you have this inherited issues of health, and you also have some kind of a secret happening with Donald Trump's health. I see him leaving the White House because of health. Now, there's a couple ways this could happen. He could just have a health collapse and then leave, or Article 25 could be issued by his cabinet based on recommendations by his doctors, and if he refuses to leave, then they could it could go to the Senate and he could be forcibly removed by the Senate. There's also a feeling here that he leaves due to foolish choices. So what were those foolish choices? Every McDonald's Big Mac he enjoyed? Or was it foolish choices by getting involved with people like Epstein? I don't know. Large sums of money over Trump's head. So he was dealing with large sums of money. He was also losing large sums of money. Maybe he was foolish with large sums of money. We know that he was borrowing from Russian banks. And here it is, hanged man. So this person is going to leave the White House. He's going to leave. We have two indications. First off, we've got walking away from everything. It's interesting. This Eight of Cups moving in, which is to go off and seek the Ninth Cup. It's to leave everything behind. And we have a hanged man. He's already thinking of leaving. The fact that the hanged man sits in his third house could be an indication that he knows he's on borrowed time. Foolish behavior. He may be somebody that wants to complete his work, win that Nobel Prize. He's trying to get that Nobel Prize before he's pushed out of the White House. He had stars. He was lucky. He was a star. You know, he had a great life, but now his life is coming to an end. You know, he had the star on his back, you know, the wind on his back, and he had all this success. The fact that the Ace of Pentacles stands in his fourth house could be that he could be offered large sums of money to leave, that he could cut a deal with somebody in order to leave. That is financial. He's getting taken out by paperwork. He's getting taken out by legal woes. Eight of Swords is literally paperwork, the person who's tied in knots, red tape. So we could see him slowly being wound into some kind of a situation that he cannot get out of. Ace of Pentacles, I'm telling you, they're going to give him billions just to get out. The fact that the hangman is there and the Eight of Cups, this guy is not staying, and his crossing is foolishness. where he's at right now, the courts are right over him. Don't think that this man, as corrupted as the Supreme Court is, I don't think that they are going to do what he wants them to do, because the court is the issue for him right now. His opposition, what he fears, incarceration. The Nine of Wands is to be incarcerated, cornered, up against the wall, tied in knots due to debts or legal issues. The justice we're seeing here, tied up, courts, fear of incarceration, hanging it up, walking away. Trying to do this backwards. And his final outcome, he's going to be offered a reprieve. He will be given the honor of resigning. His clarification. Much of why he loses support has to do with his tanking the U.S. economy. He tanked the U.S. economy, and he destroyed the government is in disarray. We don't have a government, and that is the main issue. We see the courts and we see people dancing in the street as his opposition over the issue of his fear of jail, sobriety. He's probably going to be offered some help in avoiding it. His life ends like Epstein. You know, it's interesting. I did a remote view of Epstein, and then I recorded it a couple of weeks before his arrest. And he said, this hell will never end. And so, yeah, he could have gotten off. There was a non-prosecutory agreement. It wouldn't have protected him from state charges. But the truth of the matter is that Epstein was in hell. He was in a hell that was never going to end, because the entire world knew what he did. And he knew the entire world was looking at him and wanted nothing to do with him. Epstein knew he was a pariah. And this man, his life ends just like Epstein, knowing that this hell will never end. He can't escape. The Eight of Swords, he's tied in knots. His dirty secrets, what he inherits. I think he knows he can't stay. He may resist, but in the end, if he doesn't stay, if he doesn't leave, they'll issue Article 25 because he's unfit to serve. Yeah. I don't think with the Nine of Wands coming in, the Eight of Swords, he's cornered. There simply is nowhere for Donald Trump to run to. All right, that is what I see. I hope I gave you some clarity about what is coming up for the future. Remember, ultimately, it's our intelligence agencies and the people that work there that have to be brought before the House and Senate to answer for why these people were placed in a position of power in the first place. All right, I want to thank you for watching this remote view and tarot card reading. If you would like to have a session with me, you can book me through Booksy. It's a real easy process, and all the information is below this video. You simply make the appointment, and then I call you. Be sure and also remember that I am in Portland, Oregon, and so all times are Pacific Daylight time. All right, be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Good night.